You found it. It's Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania's most in-depth weather forecast video. We call it Weather for Weather Geeks. We're in the middle of a very active mid-winter pattern now that doesn't necessarily translate into huge snow events for us anytime soon, but we're going to have our chances for more wintry intrigue in this kind of a pattern over the next week or so. We had a little wintry intrigue this morning. Everything went pretty much according to plan today. We did have some slick spots and even some school adjustments out there this morning with this kind of coating to a half an inch to, in some spots, close to an inch worth of snow and sleet first thing in the morning. But as expected, it got washed away by the rain and the milder temperatures and the wind for the rest of the day. And the wind and rain definitely became the bigger story. As promised, we got about an inch worth of rain in many of our local rain gauges. Now, we always have to take some of this data with a little bit of a grain of salt because some, personal or backyard weather stations are maintained better than others. The data sometimes not so great on some of these. Sometimes they're down and don't report their data to the internet, and so we sometimes show some zeros on here or some numbers that really kind of stand out as, just not quite right. But generally, if you eliminate some of those obviously kind of bad readings, had about an inch worth of rain in most of the area so far today. We're not quite done with the rain just yet. At the Youngstown Warren Airport, we saw a peak wind gust of 52 miles per hour. This was late this morning, right before the 11 o'clock hour. And then routinely after that, we gusted to 40 to 45 for most of the afternoon. The wind has diminished some this evening. Now, it's still blustery out there, but we're not going to see a 45 or 50 mile per hour gust from here on out as we head through the rest of the evening and into the night. Just after 7 p.m., here's a look at the radar. That steady rain is pushed out to the east. We're going to get into more of a scattered shower regime here for a few hours. Again, it remains pretty blustery, but we remain in the warm sector of this system for now. That'll change by tomorrow morning. But wow, what a system this is. Look at all the isobars this evening on our regional radar composite. So we still have a severe weather threat down across parts of Virginia and eastern North Carolina. But all these isobars, when you see all these on a weather map, that usually means wind, and this is a wound-up system. We're going to have almost a repeat of this coming up Friday into Friday night, with a storm taking a very similar track and perhaps being even stronger than the one that's rolling through right now. Look at all the storm reports over the last 24 hours. Wind damage from downwind of the Great Lakes all the way down through the mid-Atlantic states into the southeast. We've had several tornadoes across the Carolinas and down into Florida over the last 24 hours or so. You may have seen some of the damage pictures and video, especially from the panhandle of Florida, dating back to last evening. Here across eastern Ohio and western PA, scattered showers for the time being. Now, as we head towards tomorrow morning and the colder air arrives, I think our rain showers will be replaced by some snowflakes tomorrow morning. As a lot of people are heading out the door, I think there'll be some snow showers and flurries around. Not expecting big impacts out of this, but could the ground be coated in some spots? Maybe, especially those non-paved surfaces. Most of the roadway temperatures should be above freezing. Even the secondary roads should be warm enough that we shouldn't have too many issues tomorrow morning. But the wind will be a story again tomorrow. Now, the true wind gusts, the magnitude won't be quite as high as today, but still, a 40, occasionally 45 mile per hour gust will definitely be a possibility for a lot of the daylight hours before the wind finally diminishes towards late afternoon and into the evening. The most numerous snow showers will probably be early, but scattered snow showers and flurries then the call for the rest of the day, probably diminishing in coverage, along with the wind diminishing late in the afternoon into the evening. And then this fast-moving system pushes in on Thursday, and this looks a little intimidating on the model here, but I think the bark is a little worse than the bite here. I think there'll be a couple of rain and snow showers around. Should all be pretty low impact, and we're not expecting a lot in the way of wind with that system. We await this system gathering strength by first thing Friday morning down across the southern plains states. This will turn into a big ticket snowstorm and even a bona fide blizzard for parts of the Midwest, from Kansas and Nebraska through Iowa, parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan as well. This could set some pressure records, low pressure records, for parts of the region, especially some of the states just off to our west. The true magnitude of this area of low pressure, this might get down to 975, 980 millibars, which is a really, really low pressure for a non-tropical system. That's getting down into, blizzard of 78 territory and things like that. So I don't think the pressure record will be broken in Ohio, but as this storm tracks probably out through here, the pressure record in January at least could be broken in Indiana. Now, when it comes to the snow part of this, For our neighbors to the north and west, I do think this will be a pretty sizable snow event from Peoria and Champaign towards Chicago, South Bend, Fort Wayne, up towards Detroit. Toronto will do well. For us, this is a tricky forecast for late Friday, pardon me, into early Friday night. I do think there's a window of maybe a few hours where we can see some accumulating snow across our area. Now, it's going to get washed away, it looks like, by rain showers and rising temperatures for a time Friday night. But for a while, late Friday afternoon and especially early Friday evening, I could see where parts of the area get some accumulation, especially in areas around and north of I-80. But I'm not expecting at this time this to be a big-ticket snow event for us. But the wind will become a story as we head towards late Friday night into Saturday, and as the colder air wraps in, I do think that we will see snow showers and falling temperatures and falling wind chills on Saturday. Here's a look at the current medium-range computer model spread. We'll probably put out a map on Wednesday covering the entire system for the Midwest and the Great Lakes, and of course it'll cover our area as well. But just kind of a sneak peek this evening of what some of the current modeling are advertising from Friday morning through Sunday morning. And, you know, the front end of this storm is largely Friday afternoon, Friday evening. You know, the GFS has a couple of inches. The European not really playing ball because the European has the low track a little farther north and west, drags in warmer air faster. The GFS is a little more ambitious, but both models, in fact all computer modeling, would suggest snow showers are going to come and go Saturday, very early Saturday night. Maybe some small accumulations out of that as well, with perhaps several inches up in the primary snow belts up in Geauga, Lake, Ashtabula counties and into northwest PA. High confidence, though, in the pattern here. You know, we're reaching our climatological minimums over the next 10 days, where our average highs bottom out at 34 degrees. Those are the 30-year averages. We hold at 34 for a couple of weeks, and then they gradually start rising again. As far as our actual forecast goes, we're going to be as many as 14, 15, 16 below average middle of next week. And, you know, do the math. That puts daytime highs mostly in the teens for a few days next week, maybe 20 at best. And, you know, I think there's going to be a couple of systems worth watching, particularly Monday through Tuesday night. There's a lot of model mayhem right now, early next week, but some of the modeling is indicating we may, you know, have some accumulating snow to deal with during the first half of next week. One storm at a time, though. We're just going to get done with our current one tomorrow morning. We'll track the next one coming Friday night into Saturday, and then potentially more mischief next week. But one thing for sure, this January is not shaping up like last January. We told you that would happen, and we haven't had a stretch like next week's weather, a 5 or 6 or 7 day stretch like that in 2 years. Been since late January of 2022. Thanks for watching tonight's Weather for Weather Geeks. We'll see you back here same time, same place on Wednesday. Be sure you're following me on all the social medias not listed on here. Twitter, I'm on Threads now, which is kind of a Twitter alternative. Make sure you're following me on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribing and getting notifications if you're watching me on YouTube.